Hey, 1065 here. Today I want to talk to you guys about a little bit of history about my Red V2. I don't know if I ever did make a video discussing like how I got him, what all he's been through, and all fun stuff. But before I get to that, this Silver is still giving me issues. It's giving me an issue where the thing acts like it's weak on batteries, even though this thing has a new board and went through three different sets of batteries. Currently, it's on the final set. I bought a fresh set of Rayovacs, and somehow even with that, it's still wanting to act up. And I'm starting to think it's possibly not the legs. Well, it might be the legs too. But I have to check on my wire connections and see if there's anywhere where I went wrong. Alongside with the fact I'm gonna have to try and go into the lower torso gearbox, clean it out and everything because it seems a little stiff, so that could also possibly be an issue as to why this thing is malfunctioning. So hopefully that might be it. But the reason I have this one taken apart is because I was trying to connect the this one's legs to that one to see if maybe that could be the issue, but it still kind of worked the same afterwards. But so back to this one. So of course, I got this Red V2 for Christmas of 2005, the year it was released. I remember I was in elementary school and the first time I saw it was actually at a Radio Shack at a mall that was, I think, either an hour or 30 minutes away. I don't remember, but unfortunately, surprising enough, that mall actually no longer exists. And it was also the same mall that housed KB Toys. So the mall where I first saw the robot no longer exists, which sucks. And I only discovered this, I think, about last year when I was showing my girlfriend the different malls that were around in VA at the time. And once I saw that that particular one closed down, I was devastated because so many memories were held there. Sorry for yawning a lot. It tends to happen whenever I make videos and I'm like talking a lot. But anyways, so I remember before walking to Radio Shack, on the front portion of the store, I saw mini red V2s just stacked in boxes on near the entrance. And I thought like, oh cool, little red robots. I didn't think of anything much about it. So I walked inside, turned my head to the left, and not only did I see the Roboraptor, I also saw the full-size Red V2, and I was absolutely amazed because at the time, of course, when you're a little kid and you're small, the thing just looks big, and it was just crazy with how big the robot was. Immediately grabbed the remote, and the only button I figured out that could make it do anything was the D button, because D always usually stands for demo. So pushed out some dance, immediately fell in love with the robot, and I remember I'm like, oh my gosh, I want this for Christmas, and my mom was like, well, better put on a Christmas list and ask Santa, and I was like, yeah, that's true. So every time we went to a Radio Shack, I would always be playing with the V2. Every single time, any single one that would have it, I would always play with it. And in my hometown VA, there was about two Radio Shacks, and I think both had one. I'm not 100% sure, but I know the one in my local mall in VA definitely did have them, along with like the silver V1. I think it was silver. No, it was a green V1. Wait, they also did have silver too, I believe. The only thing that made it crazy at the time is the fact that I don't ever recall seeing the box to the robot, so I didn't know what looked brand new. And I never saw any white ones either, because I did go to some other stores frequently, but I only ever saw the red V2, no other colors. So I wasn't 100% aware about the white one until I found got a mini white much, much later on in the year. So Christmas comes, Christmas morning, I wake up. I had woken up early that day and looked took a peek at the tree and there was like nothing, absolutely nothing. So I was like, "Oh, well, guess I wasn't good this year." I'm not sure how early it was. It must have been maybe if I had to take a guess, like maybe 6 a.m. or so, maybe at most. Nothing. So I go back to bed, asleep, upset, and then later on, I think it's like maybe 10 or 11 or so. My mom calls me, and I'm like, "Okay," thinking that I still got nothing, and under the tree, I think I got my "is" the same year I got the V2. I'm not 100% sure, but I do recall possibly getting "is," and I didn't see V2, so I was like, "Well, great. I guess I really wasn't good enough to get V2 this year." And mom was like, "Hey, look under the tree a little bit deeper," and all the way in the very back, staring back at me in a big box was the Red Routine. I remember just pulling it out from under tree, super excited and everything, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Of course, I really wish I was a little more careful taking it out of the box because, something I should have left were the cable protectors on it because, of course, that eventually leads to, paint scuffing and ruining, like, the, biceps of the shells, and so from there, as I was trying to remove those plastic protectors, I ended up ripping, uh, the rubber the rubber sleeve on this hand. I think it was this hand or the other hand, one of them 2, which, of course, if you notice on this one, there's no rip. So I'll get to that shortly. So of course I played with that thing a lot. Of course I made it dance a lot, made it through the whole lay down, get back up thing, showed my grandparents, literally everything. There was a lot of it did with this robot, but until one day, I think it was either that one or this one had fallen off the table, but nothing was damaged. But I remember one point did notice that this arm wouldn't move right. But of course, that's not where the issue preserves. At some point, he had this issue where he would try to continuously face plant, where his whole upper body would just rotate all the way down. Which I think there's a few videos of some V2s doing this, which it was a bit of a rare issue to happen. But of course, there's a good reason why it happened. And at the time period, I didn't think of anything of it other than the fact that, well, great. Well, great, my robot's broken. I'm not sure how long this was when he started malfunctioning. I don't know if it was within it must have been maybe at least 2000, um, what was it? Maybe later on in the year? Yeah, it was in 2006, the following year. So, yeah, I got this for Christmas of 2005. I just wanna make sure I said 2005, not 2006. But, yeah, Christmas of 2006 I mean, 5 is when I got him. In around 2006 is when he started having some severe issues. That's when he started doing a whole like face planting thing. And so I think it was actually January. If I had to maybe sometime around January or February is when mine started having issues. From there, my I had my dad's friend fix it. I didn't know what they did, but once they brought it back to me, the, cable on his arm was fixed, and I remember him having a Radio Shack sticker on the bottom, which I didn't know Radio Shack particular robots already had a sticker placed on there, but I think mine actually didn't have that, so to speak. So that's why when I saw this one, s the cable and the had Radio Shack sticker, I'm like, "Oh, wow, where did this come from? How do you guys fix the cable, and how do you fix the issue?" Of course, they really couldn't tell me much, they just told me that they were able to do it, but as years go by, once I finally have this robot up and running, um, I think I I took it to my dad's, and I had him rewire it, hoping that maybe well, actually, I'm going way off the schedule here, so, what happens then, at some point, my dad was living in an apartment at the time, and I brought the robot over to see if we could fix it because it was doing that same issue where it kept, like, wanting the face plant, except the one arm wouldn't go all the way down, and the torso was pretty much messed up too. Even though it's centered, it would always want to be on one side. But if I made it turn to say left, it would do it partially. But if I turn it right, it wanted to do a whole 360, which was really bad. So from there, we opened it up, removed the back to be exposed and see the whole bad wiring issue. So I don't think the whole bad wiring thing was fully a thing in that case, but yeah, mine had that issue. My dad was like super mad. He was like, I can't believe it. This thing was like, this is like a cool robot and everything. And how would this, how did he get away with being like this? So of course, I left at his house. All the screws go missing for the upper body shells, so I had to rig up some ram screws at the time. Actually, it was held together by zip ties, and I eventually brought him home. His whole port inner frame was like absolutely yellowed, like badly yellow. I'm surprised he even held on. Of course, eventually, once my dad moved to the house that I used to live in, that I grew up in, um, brought it over there, brought him wire. I'm like, "Can you try and rewire this for me?" And he did, hoping that it would fix the issue. No, it did not. He was able to turn on now and everything, but he still had the same issue where, as pretty much as of what I listed before. So I was like, "Well, great." And then eventually I found a white V2, so to speak. And of course, I accidentally fried that one because I connected the sensor wires wrong for the to power it on. I was using it with bad wires for a little bit, but just to mess with it, I accidentally fried it. Found the second one, which with that one, um, I did something a little different with it, which I'll get to it here soon. And then I brought the robot back to my dad and showed him like, look, it works. It's kind of janky, but I got it to work. And he was like, oh my gosh. But as from there, at one point, I got curious and I asked him, so because viewers discretion be advised. Of course, I found out that Santa was my parents. I mean, years ago. But of course, I figured my dad was the one who got me the robot. But it was like a bit of a family effort type thing because my mom had told my dad that I wanted it, and then my dad and well, if you, I don't want to say too much about what my family's relations are, but you guys can maybe guess what had happened either way. But according to my dad, he literally looked all over VA to find me the V2, and eventually finally found one. According to him, he paid about $300, and it was the only one he had left. But of course, after that one had broken, I was super upset. I do recall taking a robot to Radio Shack to see if they could fix it, and they said they couldn't. Now, of course, I was upset, but my dad on his side, he claims that we got swapped. The only one they had left was the display model, not like full display like the one I have like that the display V2, not that kind of display, but the one they use to like let people play with, that kind. That was swapped out for that, and I'm like, no, I don't recall that at all. I do recall going to the mall and asking them to fix it, and they couldn't do anything because at the time period, once they brought back to me, so what happened is they got swapped. They somehow managed to swap it out with a working V2 from Radio Shack. So pretty much the one you're seeing here is not my original. But pretty much I still count it as some my original because for the longest time I didn't know that I had gotten the replacement one. So the first one, who knows what happened to it? But this is currently my second one, and mostly everything that's happened to it is what's currently happening. Well, all thing that's currently happening is on this one. So after it was rewired, I ended up getting a message from Project Nova Zero to rewire his. So what I did was I just removed the legs from this one and then put it on his, and it worked for a little bit. And then eventually I bought his robot, so I had the parts back and everything. And so with the second yellowed V2, what I did was this is before I was fully known how to rewire it. So what I'm about to show you is something only two V2s have. That being this one and the other one being Arbiter's Honor, which at some point will be getting rewired. And so with this one. So for a test, I literally took the legs off, removed the coating, not the coating, but the little plastic springs, and just completely use a bunch of electrical tape. I remember going through like a lot of this stuff. As you can see now, it's starting to show the wire, and this worked for a little bit. Well, I mean, it still works to this day. Just I had to disable the feed because it's kind of starting to fail around here. Because what I had to do was I had to like each individual one had to be taped, and then eventually I would put another piece and then glue it. But as you can see, it's starting to become loose, so portions of it do not work. And with this one, he does have a new frame. He's gone to think about maybe this should be his third frame because his first frame is the one that was yellowed, and eventually he was parted out, and then eventually got a second frame. This is the third frame. He will be getting another new frame soon, a fourth frame, and this frame that he currently has right now is going to go to another V2, which I'll be showing all that very soon. But yeah, this is how I used to repair the V2s. This was only done on 2 units. This isn't something I would do again. But this was just a test because I just was so desperate to have a V2 that worked. Because this red V2 originally was just sitting up on shelves, literally not working at all, knowing the fact that he had a terrible wiring issue. And I just could never use him. He was in photos and everything, but functioning wise, never filmed at all. The only time I did get him in one time I did have him turn on in a few videos before wiring. If you look up Robosapien having a seizure, it's the V1 pretty much on low batteries and it looks like he's having seizure, and then the V2 comes in He's like self-diagnostic initiated, but I turned him off immediately. So he still had bad batteries in him at the time, but I mean the board was already dead. So what other harm could happen? So this V2 modifications have been done. A lot of stuff were done, but some of it, most of it will be undone. So for the hands, I put LEDs because I remember seeing another video that had something similar, but this is gonna be removed, and I'm gonna give him back his what's it called, his old gauntlet sensors because I still have them. His red eyes will stay on him because they're pretty iconic and everything. But around the shell area, I literally had to trim all this off, and I literally made holes around here just to fit the cables because it was gonna be way too tough for him to move around. So that's why I did that. So it looks really bad. And I've always told my girlfriend I'm good. I do plan on rewarding him someday. I just don't know when. I have to get all my repairs done before I can get to him and service my other V2s. Of course, also with the board, he's currently running on another board that I believe came from the second yellowed V2 that I had. Because after frying the first one, that one immediately became parts, and then the other one, I just ended up using its parts to restore this one. But yeah, I think I covered about mostly everything about my Red V2. So yeah. Oh yeah, another thing is that he's not in the best shape either. Like his coloring is like kind of he's gotten discolored over the years, really dirty. I mean, look how colored, how dark this is. And of course, I had tape around here because of the markings. And now when I try to get that, it's gonna be really difficult. Yeah, here too. His upper shells were taped together as well because I didn't know how else to hold them together. I had no plans on using him for a very long time because I didn't know what to do. But yeah, that's pretty much, I guess, all I have to say. Hope you guys enjoyed this little video on the history of my Red V2, and hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next video.